I grew up on the internet. This is my experience, and we're gonna talk about it. I did my research, but also at the same time, most of the things that I'm going to say are really firsthand experience. This particular topic made me unbox a lot of experiences, made me understand certain things, and made me laugh at certain things too. I don't know if you call that growth. I don't know if you call that being mature, but it was self discovery for me, and that was pretty amazing. So let's talk about that particular love or that particular relationship or feeling that stems from an online connection. If you feel somebody or if you feel for somebody that you met online and you haven't really met in person, is it really possible to fall in love? Well, let's talk about that. My name is Lee, and this is The Midnight Affair. I really thought I was really ready to talk about this topic. But as I was going through what I wanted to say and when I was going through all my thoughts, it unboxed a lot of feelings that I'd rather not remember. It unboxed a lot of experiences that I'd rather not remember. Because you see, when we talk about feelings that's stemming from something virtual, I would say that it still is frowned upon and people are not very open about it, really. And I guess even the most open minded persons I know, they still doubt themselves if they feel for somebody that who they haven't met, particularly who they haven't met in person and they've just been talking to them online. And a lot of people had been abusing the online platform for other gains and not really for genuine connection, which is really weird. So there's so many topics where I really wanted to start. There's catfishing, there's perception versus reality, but I think I will start with people really discriminating against this. Maybe not discriminating. Maybe some of us would have good intentions. Maybe we just really want to keep the people, our friends, safe from whoever it is behind that computer, from a predator and whatnot. So I don't really know where to start. And I'd probably be jumping on and off with topics because it's a topic that I know so well. See, I had gotten my first desktop or our first desktop. I think that was in 1998. I was in high school. It wasn't connected right away to the internet, not yet. Um I started to learn how to play games and the very first game, well, I did play Prince of Persia when I was younger in my dad's office, but that's a totally different thing because I didn't play it like every day. But the first game that did not make me sleep was really Heroes of Might and Magic. And then later on, our cousins provided us with Warcraft and Starcraft, and then it became more and more and more. And I realized that it was more fun playing on the PC. And then later on, it got connected through dial up. And more than word, I realized that I can now make connections using these chat applications that I don't even know how I got to know them. It's just that one day I had them. I don't know if it was introduced by a classmate, but I think it was. And since I wasn't the type of person or kid who would go out and meet people in malls and whatnot, sometimes I go with my classmates, but that's really it. And the group of friends that I had weren't also into those kinds of things. Yeah, sure, we would hang out And I would hang out with them. But when usually they ask me out, I just tell them that my mom said no, even if I've never asked my mom really, because I just like spending my weekends or after classes, I guess, at home. And honestly, I'm just really the happiest when I'm around my sisters. So it wasn't really my thing to go out, and there was really no way for me to meet people. Um, the girl meets boys activities at school, because I was enrolled in an all girls school. That was the most awkward moment for me, and I really didn't know how to start conversations with boys. And not that you don't like them. In fact, I love the Backstreet Boys and I love Nick Carter, but um I just didn't really know how to socialize. So when I got a hold of the MIRC, it gave me a totally different life. It was second life for me. I go to these channels, I meet these people, and I couldn't say that over the years, the friendship I made on MIRC that time weren't real. They were all real. They were all supported. They were all supportive. And the first boyfriend that I had, I met him on MIRC. We decided, after a few days of chatting, actually, I think it was a month of chatting, calling each other on the phone, texting, we finally decided to meet. And I wasn't really sure of how I would feel, because what if he's not the guy on the pictures that he sent me? But luckily, he was the guy, and he was really cute in person. So if you're listening to this, yes, you. Now you know that I really thought back then you were cute. So I grew up with the internet, and it was MIRC who taught me how to be aware. And my very first lessons for cybersecurity were taught to me by MIRC, and then I learned how to do the search and destroy on my computer, all because of the MIRC. MIRC both were the source of my stress and my happiness at that time. And I can't really say that the connections that I made back then weren't real. They were real. They were as real as they can be. And I grew up in the internet. I knew from that moment that I was browsing on Netscape, and I downloaded ICQ, and I had my EDSA mail, and then I connect to an ISP who is free at night. Yeah. I knew then that I was a netizen. And then from there, I learned a lot of other things. That's my first brush on the HTML and CSS and all of those things. And I really never thought that I could have been very wealthy if I just pursued that. But yeah, we all make mistakes. I'm just kidding. But the thing is, my point is, I grew up on the internet. So people like me, and I'm not saying that this is unique to me. I know that there are some people out there who are exactly like me. Feeling something for someone isn't that is not being gullible. You see, um, there are already researches that are proving that the brain cannot distinguish, yeah, the brain cannot distinguish, or is having a hard time distinguishing what is real from perception, what is real from imagination. And that's why some of us becomes obsessed with celebrities and whatnot, because we feel so close to them, because we read about them every single day, that we think, or that our brain thinks we're close to them, that we know them personally. And so if something happens to them, we get affected. And you cannot tell me that that is not real. You've never met that person in real life. You've never been with that person. But because you were exposed to their lives and you feel like they are part of your life, then it becomes real to you. It becomes real to your brain. And again, perception versus reality becomes perception and reality, not versus anymore, because they work side by side. What you imagine can be what you can imagine can be something that you really feel in real life. Thus, that experiment with the hand, where the where the person experimenting, or it's an experiment of senses. I can't put it in words, but it's an experiment in senses. So the person would be putting out his right hand on one of on one side of the table, and he would stare at it, and then they would put in a second silicone hand, or some rubber hand for his left hand, and they would brush, or they would stroke both of the real hand and the fake hand with a brush, and then they would hammer the fake hand, and they would still feel it. Again, it's because the brain cannot perceive reality, and or cannot distinguish reality from perception, from imagination. And so, with this thought, I think a lot of people would get into the business of catfishing because they think they're not gonna hurt anyone anyway. Because if you haven't met the person, you cannot fall in love with them. That's what our society dictates. And one of the experiences I had was actually with cousins who thought that it would be nice to play a prank on me, and thus it was catfishing. And as I said, as I was doing this, um, I never really gave so much thought about it, except that when they told me about it, actually I think everybody was on it. They were so happy that they got me. They were so happy that they made me believe in something. But okay, maybe I'm just not really the kind of person who would sit on it and would think about it. Every now and then it would come up in my brain, and I out of all curiosity, I just want to know what's happening in their brain. Like, what's so funny about that? Um, I've I've watched that documentary in Netflix where that football player, I can't even remember his name, but he's cute, huh? Um, he fell for this girl, but it turns out that he was being catfished by another guy. Okay. It's very, very simple. Whatever he felt, it was real, because he fell in love with the persona. He did not fall in love with the guy per se, but he fell in love with the persona of that girl who was really thoughtful to him, and to him that was real. I know it's hard to believe, but to him it was real. They've never met. He haven't even seen her in video call. Of course, you would think that why would he believe it in an age where video calling is something that's not alien anymore? Why wouldn't he call him? Because to him, whatever he was feeling at that time, it was actually real. Again, that experiment with the hand, those studies about perception and your brain. And also, it's the reason why some people get PTSD from games, because what they see and they've been exposed to it so long, their brain just thinks that it's real. It's not because they're cuckoos, or they're sick in the head. No, it's not that. It's just really the brain. That's how our brain reacts. And so, let me also point out that I am sure that what that footballer felt for the girl was real. It's because whether you have seen the person in person, whether you have spent time in the physical realm, the same parts of your brain are working when you start liking someone, whether they're there physically or not. So I'm sure, and I'm pretty sure, that what he felt for that girl or for that persona was real. And so let me go back to my own experience for a little bit. As I was doing the first few parts of this podcast, I then realized that there's really no need for me to feel bad or angry at that time. If I was really nice to that persona, I wasn't faking it. It was real. And if they thought that it was funny, um honestly now I don't really care. And I am just realizing it now, whether that was for them fun or not. I can say that it should not have affected me that much. You know why? Because for me, that experience was real. And for me, whoever that persona is, that persona was nice. So I think I like it better. I like that persona better than the actual people behind it now. Yeah, maybe also maybe because I just like that football player. I wouldn't put myself in the victim's shoes. It wasn't as bad as what that football player experienced. And if he can get through it, um, I think we should also consider that. And if you're still having fun catfishing other people, making jokes about it and whatnot, if you think that's funny, whatever happened to him, then maybe you should go see a doctor, because maybe for him it wasn't like that. For me, it wasn't so impacting. But how about for those people who had clinical depression, who had these kinds of things? It may be funny for us, but for them, it's not. They feel it twice real than what I felt, than what that footballer felt. And it's gonna be so bad. I mean, it's really easy for us to judge when that thing had never really happened to us. And so I talked about me being a netizen. And then for sure, I'm not the only one out there who has the same situation. For sure. This is not a unique situation. I know that there are folks right there who are now nodding their heads and in agreement, thinking that, yeah, that this story, this story is very familiar because it's something that I went through. The only sad thing is, since we were in that generation where technology was starting, we were in between kids who already grew up with all of these technology, they understand these things, and with parents who were just discovering technology and who doesn't understand these kinds of things. And we cannot fault them because they just didn't really grow up with that technology, they didn't have the same experience. And so what good advice could have they given us? And if they were skeptic about somebody falling in love online, or somebody falling in love with someone they haven't met, it's because that experience is not in their arsenal. So what contribution can they give if all they have is skepticism? And I think for them, it wasn't just them being skeptic, it was just them being cautious, wanting to protect you, wanting to make sure that you're going to be okay. The concept of falling in love with someone you've never met is not new. Really, it's not new. That's why, we had pen pals way before the internet, way before MIRC, way before email, way before Tinder, Bumble, and all of your dating apps. There was the concept of pen pals. It started, it probably started sometime 1930s for university students. I couldn't really remember all the history, but um, it was a program for university students to have a pen pal in a different university in a different country for cultural exchange, so that they would understand how a student feels from some part of the world versus how they feel. And with that, of course, there would be some pairings, because pen pals are not targeted just between boys and boys, girls and girls, or boys and girls. It was mixed, so you can receive mails from all around the world, from every gender, from every um, from every age within the uni age. So it was it was that I we can't really say that what they felt wasn't real. They could have really loved writing to that particular person because finally there's someone who understands me, someone who's not in my immediate circle, a stranger, a total stranger, who knows what is it I'm going through. And they would fall in love. They would write their love poems to that person, or they would confess or profess their love to that person, and then they would decide to meet. Yes, there would still be an impact of when you meet a person. Honestly, I think I'm better with long distance relationships because there's just a different expectation in a long distance relationship. There's a kind of longing that you just can't get if someone is easily accessible to you. And plus, my brain goes really really weird that if somebody is just really near me, then there should be no excuse for that person and I not to see each other. It's actually scary as well to um, invest with someone over over the internet, of course, and over just phone communication, and then one day saying yes, I'm finally going to meet you. That still is scary because what if in person they wouldn't like you? That's a real, even for me, that is something real. That fear is real because, as you know, in our first season, the very first episode is it all starts with physical attraction. So what if they have created this expectation in their brain? It's not even imagination, it's expectation versus reality. What if they made all of these expectations in their brain and suddenly I don't live up to it? Not that I care, but what if I did not live up to it? So that is a real fear. But every relationship is a gamble anyway. Whether you're spending time together, whether it's all virtual, you would have to invest, and there would still be fears, and there would still be things that would be very scary for both of you. I honestly think that having or starting a relationship online or starting to like somebody online is just like, and I don't mean anything judgy or demeaning when I say that. It feels like if one of your senses is gone, or if one of your senses is something that you can't use, your other senses would start to fill in, so just that your brain gets a complete picture. It's the same thing when you get that connection online. Since you cannot be together physically, you get more creative in things where you can create those shared experiences that only you and this person would have. And I think, based on my experience, people whom I connected online, they have more effort than people whom I just connected in the real life. And I think out of all the people that I had actual relationships with, there's only one person who was around me. We were working in the same company, but everybody else I've met online in a forum, in a game, or in a dating app. And I know that people would really make effort in getting connected when physicality, or when physical connection is not allowed. You just really get more creative. You get more into it. And like what I said, if I tell these things to my friends before, I always feel the need to lie because I don't want them praising their eyebrows. I don't want them thinking that, you're all logical, and then you feel these kinds of things for someone you haven't met. And it's only now that I am understanding that, you know what, it's real, and it can happen. It really can happen because the same mechanics in your brain are at play. The same parts of your brain are doing the same things, and plus the brain also has some trouble um, defining what is real and what you're perceiving. So now that I get to understand that, I get to, I finally get to allow myself to admit that these things had happened to me. And it's really not forgiveness. I don't think I've sinned against myself for doing those, but I think it's just really more freeing to accept that as a part of my reality. I'm a netizen. I grew up on the internet, and if people weren't able to explain that to me growing up, they're not at fault. Just because they don't have that in their arsenal of experience, or arsenal of advices, and that is totally fine. There are certain things that you really have to learn on your own, and to me, this was one of them. And however you look at it, whether you're judging me right now, I know that I have science to back it up for me now. I know which parts of the brains are at play, and I know that the brain works differently, or works the same way actually, when understanding what's happening in real life and what's happening in my imagination, or what I am perceiving. And that is just so refreshing for me. And so, stranger, what I'm just really trying to say is that if you have met someone online, I don't know, chat, Omegle, Bumble, Tinder, the games that you play, and you haven't met and you feel this intense feeling for them, maybe it's not yet romantic love. If it's just a few months, sure. But if you're way past 3 months, 4 months, and still talking every single day, and if that is confusing you, whether you're feeling what you're feeling is correct, what you're feeling is correct. That's totally valid. You're falling in love, and it's a good thing. But I can only say that for you. For the other person, it could be a totally different thing, because we're all different people, and that's what's good about it. Some people would need actual presence to fall in love. Some people would need you to be there and to be touched, because simply that's their language of love. And they're totally different from you or different from me, and that is okay. And if you meet someone who's in the same boat, then I would say, row that boat, and um, go into the direction where you're supposed to go with that person. But what I'm just really saying, and the point of the whole episode is, virtual love is real. And catfishers are people who doesn't really know how the brain works, and so they think they've they've gotten away with it, but really no, it's, I don't know. Now when I think about it, catfishing is a sign of ignorance, really. You're actually thinking you're controlling the situation, but really not. It's just the brain responding to you. You're not controlling anything. Too bad, huh? That takes away that power. So, stranger, thank you so much for sitting with me, and I hope this recording goes through. I will let the outro do the rest for me, and if you enjoy this particular episode, please do give us a rating. Do give me a rating. I don't know why I keep on saying us, because I'm the only one doing all of these anyway. So, do give this podcast a rating, and we're going to have some more conversations. I will see you in the next episode. I'm so sorry for the late episode, and thank you for your patience. I'll see you. Stay safe. Have fun. Have a great week. Thank you for spending time with me today, stranger. I hope that in these shared experiences, we both learned something. If you wish to connect and share your own experiences, you can find me on Instagram. That's at Lilith Star, LILITHSTR, or send me an email at linotegami@gmail.com. That's LINOTEGAMI at gmail.com. Let's catch up on the next episode.